Welcome to SEC Football Live here on the 440 Sports Network. That is Trey Wallace of Outkick.com. You got the podcast and everything as well. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by M.L. Rose, 7 great locations all across the mid-state area, and, of course, producers of a product I'm going to promote here on the show coming up momentarily, a documentary about beer in Nashville. Trey, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm charging my phone nonstop. This has been the craziest 7 week. I thought the off season with NIL and house settlement and NCAA nonsense was nuts. Bro, we're at a different level now with all this coaching search stuff. It is.
Yep. We're gonna get to the Lane Kiffin.
I know. I literally have had a go bag for 4 weeks now. And that go bag means that if I got to go during this thing, I'm heading a couple of different places.
Lane Kiffin's family openly and intentionally lets that information get out that they are on a private plane to LSU. What does it all mean? And I think there's also a more important question here, where this is like an unprecedented situation. It's one thing, and I'm not trying to belittle Tulane here, for example, but it's one thing for Tulane to be a group of 5 teams. I still don't love the idea of this at all. It's still kind of gross. But at the end of the day, if Tulane is going to lose its head coach to Auburn or to Ole Miss or to Florida, that's the natural order of things. You are a very good coach at Troy, then you become a very good coach at Tulane, and then you get a promotion. And it sucks that it's happening in the middle of a playoff run for Tulane, but at least it makes a little bit more sense. This is a SEC playoff team in Ole Miss. It is a top 10 team that is trying to make a playoff run. I don't know how good they are in the playoff, Trey. I don't know if they can go to the championship game. I don't think they can win the national championship, but who cares? Yeah. The point is they are having to deal with the most ridiculous thing, and it's not anybody's fault. It's some of it, Kiffin likes to lay it on extra thick, but it's not anybody's fault. It's that the calendar in college football is totally screwed up. So we'll get to all of that, the Lane Kiffin of it all. I have a question about scrutiny on Coach Sarkisian at Texas. I think there's, they could still finish with wins over Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, both of whom can make the playoff. They could finish 9-3. Their only loss, or one of their losses, I should say, is on the road against number 1 Ohio State in week 1. If anybody else played that game, they'd probably also have the extra loss as well. Is the committee screwing Texas, or is Texas a huge disappointment? We'll get into that. I think Bama's getting hosed a little bit by the committee. Is Vanderbilt also getting hosed by the committee? Why doesn't the committee love the SEC? And why is the rest of college football, Trey, always complaining about the bias that is apparently inherent in the committee towards the SEC when the SEC never gets the treatment SEC fans actually want? So we'll get to all of that.
You really laid that one out there, bro.
What happened? What's going on with Shane Beamer? We got all kinds of stuff to get to. First of all, M.L. Rose, 7 great locations, soon to be 8 in Murfreesboro. If you're in Tennessee, fantastic neighborhood pub, great beer specials, great brunch menu on Saturdays and Sundays for college and pro football games. They got happy hours on Thursdays. They got trivia night. It is really a great, genuinely awesome place to go watch football, drink beer, eat good food. And also Wing Wars on Saturdays. So you got the wing special on Saturdays. But now they are also a partner of mine. When we put together a documentary about craft beer in Nashville. Nashville is the name of the podcast series. It's a 7-part documentary. You can listen to it everywhere you get your podcasts. 7 parts, very short, very digestible. You could probably listen to the whole thing in the amount of time it takes Texas A&M to come back from 30 points down.
Just had to be. Yeah, but don't worry. The college football playoff committee, it neutralizes it. So their first half really didn't matter compared to their second half, but we're not talking about. But then the committee wants to throw out there that Alabama, that Alabama needed to score 2 late touchdowns against South Carolina to win. All right, well, Texas A&M had to score 28 straight points. Whatever.
No, I hear you. Look, I think Bama is absolutely getting misevaluated, but we'll get to that in a second. All right, so before we do, I have one soapbox to get on, which doesn't happen often, but it's the same sort of conversation that I really am kind of tired of having basically since year 1 and almost like week 1 of the playoff rankings in 2014 when Chris Fowler had to do kind of the same thing on game day when Mississippi State and Ole Miss were 1 and 2.
Those were the days.
Networks don't control our playoff. Okay, Fox, NBC, CBS, ESPN do not control who gets into the playoff. They are trying to drive ratings to their shows,
Right.
like Outkick does, or Fox Sports, or this show, or Get Up on ESPN, or whatever. Big noon kickoff, College Game Day. They want you to watch, and so they're going to do what they can do to get you to watch, which means they might say some outlandish stuff. They might say stuff you disagree with. And that's part of media today. And unfortunately, most listeners, I'm not saying listeners of this show, because I'd like to think this is a more thoughtful conversational show.
Agreed.
But the average American sports fan loves the things that they're being fed right now in their algorithm. It's why they keep getting fed things like outlandish takes. And I think most people understand that now. The argument that at ESPN, and I know I'm saying this as an employee, but the argument that ESPN wants 7 or 8 SEC teams in the playoff, it doesn't make any logical sense to their business model. Not to like what they want or don't want. How does ESPN, and I'm setting you up here because I know you know all the answers, Trey. How does ESPN make the most money on the playoff?
I mean, you got to drive the matchups. I mean,
TV ratings.
Right, TV ratings that are going to turn this thing in. I mean, it's the same thing that TNT executives are sitting around praying for too, because they sublicense a couple of games.
Right. Does Ole Miss make the TV partner more money than Notre Dame or less money than Notre Dame?
Less money.
Okay. The ESPN wants every region of the country represented with the biggest possible brands from those regions. That is what they want. They want Ohio State, Notre Dame. They want USC, probably Texas. There's probably a couple of East Coast sort of like brands that are real big enough. I don't even know if Clemson or Florida State or Miami would do that. Georgia, I think, would be in that mix. Maybe LSU, but even then, there are more people in Chicago, one city in the Big Ten, than are in most SEC states. There are 9 million people in Chicago.
Miami.
If they can win Chicago TV ratings wise, it is so much better for business than winning the entire state of Mississippi, which has like 4 million people in it. So I just want to reiterate, when you hear things that sound kind of silly, or maybe for effect, or maybe outlandish, and that you disagree with them, it is not a sign that Bob Iger has sent out a memo to everyone at ESPN to try to get more SEC teams in because that's what's good for business. Because actually, it's not what's good for business.
Thank you.
So Fox does the exact same thing with the Big Ten, and it actually is good for business to have Big Ten brands in the tournament because they are enormous alumni bases with enormous population centers and bases. There are more people in those areas than there are in the South, and so I got to get that off my chest.
You're making too much sense. Stop.
I want to get that off my chest.
No, I mean, I don't.
Guess what? Guess what? Nobody at Fox or ESPN or CBS or NBC is on the committee.
No, they're just broadcasting it. Like, they have there's not an ESPN exec sitting in the room.
No.
Or a TNT executive, or Turner, however the hell you'd want to put it, saying, hey, please make this matchup happen so we're good. Like, it doesn't work like that. Now,
I'm sorry. I felt like I needed to get it off my chest.
It's fine. You did a lot better job of articulating that than Hunter Yurachek last night on the CFP teleconference.
It's the same thing that we have been discussing since 2014.
Yes.
It does not benefit the TV partner of the playoff, whoever that is, Fox or ESPN.
Yeah, but I think
if Ole Miss and Indiana are playing in the championship game, we all might love it because we're goofy nerds about college football. But the average casual fan, which is what the TV partner cares about, probably is not going to tune in as much for Indiana Ole Miss as it would for USC versus Texas.
Bro, if that happens, Bob Iger's throwing a chair out the window.
Right. He does not want Ole Miss or Vanderbilt anywhere near the playoff.
No, but they don't control it. So let's just right. We're just trying to make that clear for folks out there. The same way that my parent company, Fox Sports, doesn't control Ohio State or whoever getting in. Indiana,
They want the conversation daily to be about their teams because that does benefit, that generates interest.
Correct.
But what happens on a Wednesday morning after a television show was produced on, again, same thing. Ugh. They want ratings on the show on Tuesday night, and they want us all talking about it. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. And I know it's a very tired old discussion, but I just felt like I needed to say that. All right. Let's get to the committee first and foremost. Look, here's what I'm going to say about the Oklahoma-Bama game, and it's going to kind of feed into the rankings. I don't really have a problem with all this because it's going to work itself out. So I want to start and preface everything with that. But if you watched highlights of the top and most important 30 plays in the Alabama-Oklahoma game, there might be 4 or 5 Oklahoma offensive plays.
Yeah.
Alabama was the better team, clearly, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean that Oklahoma isn't also clearly one of the 10 or 12 best teams in America. I think they are. Now, having seen them play their schedule and get to this point with an injured Mateer, their only losses are really good losses. They've played a tough non-conference schedule. I think Oklahoma's clearly deserving. So this is not an anti-Oklahoma take.
And they beat Michigan, by the way.
This is a pro-Alabama take, in which their losses are really, really close, or their one loss is really, really close, and they have 4 wins over a bunch of really good ranked teams, road wins over these teams in particular. They have a better resume than almost everyone in the entire field up until a certain point. I think their resume might be better than Ole Miss's. So I think Alabama's the one that has a right to be frustrated with where they're ranked. Yep. I think Oklahoma is deserving of where they're ranked, and I know you have to put them above them. But if you look at some of the metrics around gameplay on that, Oklahoma was by far the luckiest team in the country this weekend to win their game. Because their offense, Alabama gave them a bunch of things. The defense made a bunch of plays, but their offense got totally outplayed by Alabama.
Yeah, they were also, if I'm remembering this right, and it's been a wacky 4 days, they were outgained by 218 yards on offense. So when I even had to do a double take on that because I watched the game and whatnot while I was making my way to the stadium in Athens. But yeah, I think it was something like 216 to 408, something like that. So I agree. Oklahoma took advantage of certain situations, and that pick 6 was monumental. And then they got after Ty Simpson and they fumbled the ball. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you there, but at the end of the day, we have to look at the L that transpired in Alabama needing a new kicker, who for some reason decided to take out his shanks on his snapper and holder for some reason. Dude, just kick the damn ball and stop your bitching. I'm in agreement with you. I am.
So I think Bama fan can be a little frustrated, but if you beat Eastern Illinois and then you beat Auburn on the road, I don't think you're getting left out.
No.
Now what I would be upset about also, as a domino effect, is if I'm Oregon or Notre Dame and I end up 6 or 7 and I have to host Alabama, who's maybe a little underrated in the first round of the playoff, I'd be pretty frustrated by that. It is what it is.
But don't worry, because that Oregon win at Penn State is very monumental for the CFP committee because they had to go play at a hard place.
Who's Oregon's best
sucks?
What's Oregon's best win? And I think Oregon's very good, so I'm not anti-Oregon, but Notre Dame has 1 win over a ranked team, USC. And again, I don't think wins over ranked
probably this weekend.
Wins over ranked team are also not it's more about, in my opinion, it's more about your top 40 performance. What's your record against the top 40?
Yeah, I get that, but that's what the CFP committee and Hunter Yurchek was trying to say last night when he was and I'm paraphrasing. Actually, I'm not. He said going to play at Penn State is a challenging situation. That part I'm paraphrasing, but he literally said going to Happy Valley and playing is tough. And look what Indiana had to go through with Penn State. And then he goes, yeah, this is not the same Penn State team, their expectations. I'm like, wait a minute. If we're going to start comparing teams that suck this year, how are we throwing Alabama's loss to Florida State in there as some big ramification on where they're at? Penn State, so Oregon gets credit for going into a hostile Happy Valley, but Alabama doesn't get credit for going into Doak Campbell and it being kind of rowdy.
Well, honestly,
that's for half the damn teams in college football.
South Carolina, and this is not meant to be an SEC shill comment here, but South Carolina is clearly better than 1-7. They are a better football team than 1-7. Yeah. But are they good? Probably not. But they're better than 1-7. They've played well against really good teams for much of the season. They've had to deal with a lot of stuff, and so
don't forget we go back to that stupid comment made by Yurchek last night that this is not the same Alabama team. He literally said that, and then he was saying they needed 2 late touchdowns against South Carolina to win.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to did you not see what happened in College Station this weekend? So whatever. They're just talking.
So it does feel like if Bama wins out there, obviously, and I think. The way Georgia performed against Texas and the way they're sort of slowly building, I would be I think that Georgia and Alabama are the best two teams. Sorry, A&M. I think you're a really good team. I think you've benefited some from schedule, as Z Dean points out. I'm anti-Texas A&M. Their schedule has been probably the easiest SEC schedule ever. I'm not going to go that far, but they've also given up a boatload of points. They've won. I think they've won 3 times while giving up more than 30, and we're trailing in all those games in the fourth quarter. And so Arkansas scored 40, Notre Dame scored 40, and South Carolina got over 30, and they should have lost the game. I'm not anti-A&M. I think they belong. I can't wait to see them in the playoff. But I think Georgia's the best team right now in this conference, and I would not want to play Georgia the way no one wanted to play Ohio State last year in the playoff.
And I don't think we could have said that about Georgia 3 weeks ago, but I think we can say that about them right now. Like they
even more so after I see them against Georgia Tech.
Absolutely, which there is a possibility that Georgia could be playing 2 straight weeks in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. There's still that possibility. Like I'm the SEC title game after playing in the same damn building against Georgia Tech, which I think people are forgetting that even though they're playing in Atlanta, they're playing in the Dome, not at Bobby Dodd.
So let me ask you I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions about
Which
a bunch of SEC
Georgia
teams.
more than Georgia Tech. I don't know why the hell they're. I know why they're playing that game there, but
here's a question.
All right, go ahead.
Is Ole Miss in the playoff if they lose in the Egg Bowl on the road? That is that's an insanely difficult game. If you have a brain, you understand that bad Mississippi State teams and bad Ole Miss teams upset good rivals in that game, much like Oklahoma and Texas or any other great rivalry. Bad Auburn teams have beaten good Alabama teams and vice versa. Are they still in with a loss at 10-2?
It's the same reason why Alabama fans should be tripping out about going to Jordan Hare at night. I know Auburn's not that good, but
doesn't matter.
Things happen in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So trust me. I think they've set themselves up in a ranking spot where I don't think I don't know. Hell, I look at Alabama and they dropped 6 spots after losing to Oklahoma. Like I think they're in. Like I think that they would be in. Now you can't go down there and lose by 14 points. And it just gets weird, with all this Kiffin stuff. But I do think that they would still be in with the 2 losses. There is an argument to be made, though. Like I get the argument.
Okay. All right.
But
is Vanderbilt in with a win at Tennessee and a 10-2 record? They got to beat Kentucky this weekend.
I'm just telling you, Vanderbilt fans, get your orange on this weekend, boys. Like y'all go beat Kentucky, and then you are rooting for Tennessee Saturday night. Like you need Tennessee to win that football game more than life itself.
Do you think there's enough losing around the country for Vanderbilt to get in at 10-2 with a win over Tennessee on the road?
I think there could be enough chaos because if they go beat Tennessee on the road, they would jump Utah. In my opinion,
BYU's got Cincinnati this week on the road. They could lose that
game doesn't do
easily.
anything for me. Like whatever. I know Big Noon Kickoff is going there and shout out to Fox Sports, but that doesn't do anything for me. Like,
well, I'm just saying they could lose the game though.
No, yeah.
I think Vandy belongs ahead of BYU. BYU has not. They've got a schedule outside of the top 40. Utah has no real great wins either. Like I do think Vanderbilt here. Maybe here's the follow up. Is Vanderbilt is there an actual brand problem here for Vanderbilt? If they were a Texas or an Alabama, would they be ranked higher? Because we're already seeing Alabama getting knocked down a peg.
Yeah, but I could say the same thing about Indiana last year.
And the truth of the matter is that the teams right behind them are USC, Michigan, Tennessee, and a Texas team that actually beat them head to head. So it's hard to argue that the brand is affecting Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt needs Oregon to beat USC this weekend. Keep them out of the way. Like, just keep them out of the way. Ohio State beats Michigan. Like, I could go on and on the scenarios.
Okay,
but I think Vanderbilt would have a very, very, very solid argument with 2 losses. And do you know what the best thing would be for Vanderbilt? For Texas to somehow beat A&M.
Well, but that might – okay, so then there's the next question.
But A&M's not going to drop.
No, but if Texas gets to 9-3 but if they're sitting there ranked next to each other and Texas beats a number 3 team in the nation and has a head-to-head win over Vanderbilt, couldn't you see Texas being ranked ahead when the only difference between the two is Texas had to play at Ohio State? And if Vanderbilt had to play at Ohio State, they'd be 9-3 also.
I mean, look, I could obviously make the argument. I really could. But if you put Texas in, like, you're really just putting them in for brand. What I saw on Saturday night was a Texas team that's lost, and Steve Sarkisian does not know how to call an offense anymore for the Longhorns. I'm not saying he's not an offensive genius. I'm saying that he is so predictable now. Screen across the middle, 5 slant, bubble screen, fake the run, and then downtown it's Ryan Wingo. Like, that's it. Like, they have nothing else.
And we know his goal line offense leaves much to be desired as well.
That team is
look. This is what makes me. I'm torn on Texas here because I don't think they're getting any brand boost at all. I don't. What I think is happening. I don't think they're a playoff worthy team based on what I've seen on the field with the eyes and based on the metrics and based on the close losses and the close wins and etc. But I do think it is a fair argument to look at every other team in these rankings, to look at Texas Tech and BYU and Notre Dame and Utah and Vandy and USC and Georgia Tech. And if any of those teams also had to play at Ohio State in week 1,
I know.
They would all probably have losses too. And therefore, you have to then – it was a 1-score loss. They didn't look great in the game, but they played a good fourth quarter.
Defense played good.
Number 1 team in the nation, and you lost by 1 score. I get
it. I know.
I don't see a playoff team with Texas based on their body of work. But that is a very valid and rational point to make for Texas fans to make.
I agree with you, and they could have substituted with the Academy of the Deaf and Blind and played them, or the Sisters of the Poor, and they wouldn't have had the L. I understand the argument, but you played the schedule that you presented. Like
I'm just saying what we are doing is just like when Washington got into the playoff in 2015.
I know.
Over Penn State, a 2-loss conference champion. The only difference was Penn State played Pittsburgh, an arch rival, on the road, and Washington played nobody. And we have the committee has consistently rewarded the win-loss record, not the quality schedule, and that is frustrating to me.
Okay, but the committee is so screwed up this year with their stupid data points that they're wanting to throw out. I'm sorry, like I don't know. I'll be straight and honest with you. I don't know how to react to the CFP's metrics anymore, because before the season we were all talking about strength of schedule and how these new metrics are going to play in, but now we're favoring these weird losses over the wins. Like I'm flabbergasted.
I don't see that though. I don't see that. I think the committee's still looking at record and just going like, no, you're 10-1, you're 9-2.
No, they're ranking these
I'm like,
based
come
on BCS formula. He literally said it last night. Oh, we got the undefeated teams ranked 1 through 3. Then we got the 1-loss teams ranked 5 through 7. We've got the 2-loss teams. Like this is shit, man. I could have done this with a computer. I don't need a committee.
Well, I do think the blend of committee and computer is the right answer. Like the computer can't get it right, but I don't think all humans get it. You need the combination of human logic and oversight mixed with computer data and
it's like bro was Hunter Yurachek was just so focused on the coaching search, and then Mac Rhodes I can't say too much with him. Mac Rhodes did something, and now all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm prepped, I'm ready to go. I'm going to talk about how Mississippi State is a very good football team, but they're 5-7. Literally, those words came out of his mouth. Percent, right there, 5-7 afterwards. Like, so dude, I mean, okay, all right, let's roll. Pittsburgh's a really good football team after getting their ass whipped to Notre Dame.
Are you frustrated with the committee spokesperson? The interim committee spokesperson?
No, I'm lost on what we were talking about before the season and then what we're discussing now regarding
I will say
data points.
So I will say, I think me, fans, everybody, we get lost and wrapped around the axle on which metrics are used for which teams. And I think a lot of times we overcomplicate this stuff. I think they look at the teams, they look at the entire body of work, and some team has a really good this metric, and some team has a really good this metric. Some team has really great wins. Some have been dominant. Some have, EPA and yards per attempt that are dominant. Some have less so. Some play a tougher schedule and have been every team has a different resume, and you have to value different parts of each team. There's eye test, there's talent, there's coaching, there's domination, there's metrics, there's strength of schedule, there's wins, there's losses, there's everything. And so I actually don't fault them. Like, I think having a different reason for ranking a team is actually okay. I don't think that's a problem. I think we get wrapped around. Again, I think Notre Dame, I'll compare Notre Dame and Vanderbilt. Notre Dame and Vanderbilt have almost identical resumes. almost identical. One win over a good team. They've played about the 25th best schedule in the country, both of them. They have the exact same record. They've both lost close games to good teams on the road. One of them for Notre Dame was at home, but against number 3. Notre Dame's one loss is much better, I think, than some of the 2 losses for Vandy. And I just think the computers tell you that they're basically even. My eyes tell me that Notre Dame's the better football team. Not by much.
Don't tell Miami that.
Not by much, but I think Notre Dame's the better football team. And so if you're saying in a moment of truth, like who would I rank ahead? I would have Notre Dame ahead of Vanderbilt. I don't think it's that crazy to say use these metrics, and then go. But at the end of the day, I think Notre Dame is just a better football team.
I know we're about to move on after this, but I'll throw this at you on the way out the freaking door. That's fine. If we're going to do the metrics and the strength of schedule and whatnot, that's why I'm saying Vanderbilt needs Tennessee to win on Saturday, because
totally
that is going to look really good on the schedule. If Tennessee is ranked, let's just say 17th heading into that game, like that would be
it's big.
Top 20 matchup.
No, it's absolutely. I totally agree with your point. It's very,
and then that would overlap Notre Dame, who has, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like Stanford and they're both 3-7.
Yeah. Here's what I totally agree with that point. I think the SEC is getting 5 in. I think Vanderbilt's on the outside looking in, but because I don't think Vanderbilt wins the game against Tennessee, but it's possible, and they could prove me wrong. So I think Vanderbilt's the better team, but we'll see. I can't wait for that.
It's not like Boo Carter's walking through that door anymore.
I can't wait for that football game. All right, so I want to ask about. Let's get to Kiffin, and then I want to come back to Sarkisian.
I can't wait for this. I've been waiting for this.
I'm not going to try to do too much explaining of what happened out there. If you want to know, like, basically a very legitimate reporter indicated that all of Kiffin's family was on a private plane in Louisiana, going to Baton Rouge and touring LSU.
He was.
That's because they did that they wanted that to be heard. They wanted that to be found. Kiffin went on, I believe, McAfee yesterday on Tuesday and said that there was no ultimatum. I don't even know what an Ole Miss ultimatum would actually look like. They're not going to fire him and then pay a buyout and look for another coach. So there's like sort of this is Kiffin doing what Kiffin does. And unfortunately for Ole Miss people and for Ole Miss fans and for players, it happens to be happening while they are trying to make a playoff run. It is not anyone's fault that the fact that we have a power conference team in a big conference trying to compete for a national championship also has to worry about its coach. It is not the fans' fault, it's not the school's fault, and it's not Kiffin's fault. It is the system. It's college football's calendar being FUBAR. We cannot have the offseason, the coaching carousel, recruiting, and the bowl season and the playoff all at the same damn time, and we do. It's terrible. What's real here? Because I was asked this yesterday on a radio show, Trey.
Okay.
What do you think is going to happen with Kiffin? Just like as an opinion. And if you are asking me just like based on no reporting here, I'm not saying I have any inside information about Kiffin or LSU or Florida or whatever.
I do.
In the history of college football, no one has ever stated Ole Miss and not gone to Florida or LSU, metaphorically speaking, like in the grand scheme of things. No one has ever really done that. And so I find it hard to believe that he's not going to do it. Is this LSU a little bit more dysfunctional than other LSU's dysfunction? Maybe. Is this Florida just not as appealing? Are the new rules making it a little easier for Ole Miss to compete? All of that's true. So I don't know. What do you think is going to happen?
I appreciate you just unloading the clip on me and then wanting me to respond to like 18,000 things. So first off, there was no reason for Layla Kiffin to take a trip to Gainesville. She could tell you every hot yoga studio, coffee shop, restaurant, neighborhood, bookstore. Sure. Off the top of her head, she probably was a better tour guide than the actual Florida tour guide that took her around the area. She went to freaking high school with the coach that potentially could be coaching her son. And what I'm getting at is that was all for show, guys. There was no reason she had to go to Gainesville. She knows her freaking family's from there, man. Like she yeah. So I'm making a point here. Like this was all Lane and Jimmy. And I get that they're trying to make a decision and they want to check the boxes and make sure everything's right, Braden. I understand that part and I respect that part, okay? But there are coaching searches happening right now and coaches that are dipping out of their buildings at 2:00 in the afternoon, hopping on a jet, going somewhere, doing an interview, and then turning right back around without anybody knowing right now in college football. This was broadcast to the world on purpose by LSU. They parked that damn private jet right there in front of the fence for people to come be able to take pictures. Like, they knew what they were doing. And at the same time, what they did was they pissed off the Ole Miss folks. They have agitated the boosters. I don't care if Lane Kiffin wants to say he was having yoga with Keith Carter on Tuesday morning. I promise you that administration is like, all right, man, you're really slapping us in the face and we're trying to act like it didn't happen, but you're making it really hard on us. And I think what you saw, because I know we're going to get a little bit more into this, I think what you saw on Tuesday with Pat McAfee was the most uncomfortable interview I've seen Lane Kiffin do since his time in Oxford. That man was saying things yesterday that he doesn't say. I want to make this clear. Like, I know Lane Kiffin, man, in the way he was acting. He was like, yeah, you come to the SIP and hotty toddy, and it's such a great experience, and all the fans that show up, and we're just really trying to get ready. He doesn't talk like that, guys. Like, so what that was yesterday was a PR thing that they thought was smart. And by the way, it was pre-recorded, everybody. That was not live yesterday. That was pre-recorded. Just want to let everybody know that.
It was AI. Trey Wallace reports Lane Kiffin is now a bot.
It was all pre-recorded.
Well, let me back.
McAfee kind of screwed that up when he said, all right, man, thanks for joining us this morning. And it was 1:00 in the afternoon.
Let's back up to the Sexton. Right. Let's back up to the Sexton of it all.
Go.
Here's some context that I think most people probably don't care about, but I think it's important. And that is, there are new players entering into the agent game in college football.
Yes.
And
it's
these new
Clint Dowdle, Trace Armstrong, and Jimmy anymore.
And these new agents, Kurt Cignetti's agent at Indiana, got a deal done real fast.
Yep.
These agents, Rhett Lashley's agent, got a deal done real fast.
Correct.
To push off Arkansas, to hold off the information. That you can do either thing real fast. If Lane Kiffin wanted an extension, could have had one done a long time ago.
48 hours.
And Jimmy Sexton operates that whole organization operates differently than some of the other competitors in the agent space right now, which is some of these guys have this Scott Boras thing, and some of these guys have a let's just get it done. I don't care about the Jimmy Sexton and Lane Kiffin are doing this on purpose because they want to drive up the price at Ole Miss, drive up the price at LSU, drive up the price at Florida. That's all this is. It is conducting business. Because because they know that there is competition now in the agent space. Jimmy Sexton's still the big dog on the block, but he has less market share today than he did 5-10 years ago. He just does.
Agreed.
And so that is an important element here that people don't really think about. There's a reason a lot of extensions have gotten done with clients at other firms. I just want to point that out.
Yes.
And so the question the problem is you're putting Ole Miss, and I feel it's not that I feel bad for Ole Miss because you're married.
I feel horrible for Ole Miss.
Yeah, but you're married to Lane Kiffin, so like, it's like the person who complains about it's the person who complains about living in a noisy neighborhood who bought an apartment downtown. Like, dude, you bought an apartment downtown.
I get that.
You get the noise.
I get
that. But what they can't do anything. They can like, oh, we're gonna fire you. No, you're not. You're not gonna fire Lane Kiffin, pay his buyout, and still do the coaching search.
They could suspend him with pay.
You're going to make in a playoff race? No, you're not. You can't do that. This is why the whole thing is FUBAR, but it's not any one person's fault. But at the end of the day, if Lane Kiffin wants to stay at Ole Miss, there is no reason why the only reason why this hasn't gotten done is that he's playing all the sides against each other with Jimmy Sexton's approval. That's it. That's all this is.
I agree with you.
Here's my one strategic question for you.
Okay.
Normally, I would say to any coach, don't pass on a great opportunity. You never know when the next one's going to come. But I think Lane Kiffin has such good equity in Oxford that even if they take a step back next year and they're 8-4, 7-5, kind of like what Heupel's dealing with this year in Knoxville, that he's in no trouble at all.
No.
And there could be other jobs
Texas
that come open next year. I don't know, maybe are as good as LSU or Florida. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But Texas or USC or I don't know what could be available. Michigan, I don't know what could be available. Would you advise Lane Kiffin to stay put in eyes on a bigger job? And that way he, just like he turned down Auburn a couple years ago, he kind of wins both ways, right? Like he gets to stay put and continue to build his stock.
I think we are so enthralled in CFP wackiness. I do think that obviously they're going to be jobs open up next year, but here's where it could get crazy. What if Lincoln decides to dip out on USC this cycle? And what if Steve Sarkisian, and please don't run to the internet, folks. I'm not reporting anything. But what if
we're on the internet right now, Trey? Don't tell me.
No, I know that. You know what I mean. Tagging me in social media stuff. What if Steve Sarkisian's not the coach in Austin in 4 weeks? I think
it's next year. I think it's next year.
I know that. I'm prefacing it pretty much. Okay. So I'm not saying that's this year. I'm saying that, look, you asked me about next year. So what I'm saying is I'm just saying it, okay, maybe Longhorns this year, but probably more so next year. Here's where I'm going here. I think that Lane Kiffin has the opportunity. I think Florida would be the better situation for Lane Kiffin. That's just me personally. I'm not trying to compare Florida and LSU job-wise. I'm not, because we could go for 18 hours on that. I just think Florida would be the better spot for him at the moment. But at the same time, I do think that there is a way for him to stay at Ole Miss. But you talked about earlier about a deadline and how it's not really out there, and it's not really – I'm not putting words in your mouth, but the ultimatum is not the right word, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Keith Carter needing to know what Lane's going to do, because they are also going to have a coaching search, which, by the way, Keith Carter, and I've talked to multiple sources about this, I've reported on it, they're already doing their due diligence on the coach.
Of course
they know the first person they would call, and that first person would accept the job when Lane would leave.
Also a guy who could be in the playoff.
Also a guy that could be in the playoff. Okay? So what I'm getting at here,
every organization, every team has
they all have a black book.
They all have the list.
And by the way, just throwing this out there, Jimmy Sexton, like, this is the guy that's going to place one coach at one school and then place the same coach at Ole Miss. Like,
you don't think Tulane has a list of names they've already kind of back channeled on if John Summerall leaves? Of course they do.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody
they all do. But here's where I'm a little thrown off about this all. I think that right now Lane is putting himself in a spot, PR-wise, it's going to be very rough to come back from. And I think that, look, if you go and win, it's fine. But the reason why Keith Carter has put a timeline out there, and it's real, folks. Like, Keith Carter wants to know before Ole Miss technically starts their Mississippi State prep week, which they're doing that right now.
Well, but again, Virginia Tech put a timeline on James Franklin, and then it passed, and then he goes, "Okay, we'll put another one on you." Like,
I get
what
that.
Is Ole Miss gonna do?
Look, okay. All right. You want to really lay it out? Here's how you lay it out. You're not going to get, after the damn Egg Bowl, okay? Hear me out here. Where you're going to potentially go. First off, if you win the Egg Bowl, you're automatically going to go 19 days before you play your next game. There's an opportunity where Ole Miss is in the top 4, and they don't play their first game until New Year's Eve or January 1st.
God,
you're telling me we're going to go a whole month through this shit with Lane Kiffin about Florida, LSU, or Ole Miss? No, we're not. That's why there's going to be a decision made either right before the Egg Bowl or that Saturday or Sunday right after the Egg Bowl.
I think he announces he's going to LSU at the end of the season on Sunday, or he's announcing an extension after the game on Sunday. That's what I would think. Or I guess is the game Friday night?
The game is on Thursday.
Thursday night, yeah. I think that week. I think you're right. That weekend is.
Yeah,
nothing like a gas station Thanksgiving in Mississippi.
I can't wait. Like, I think I'm literally changing my plans and spending Thanksgiving in Starkville this year, and then making a trip to either Atlanta or Texas or maybe even Auburn.
I have started to kind of toy with the idea of, all right, if you think LSU is a little dysfunctional, and I kind of am coming around on the Florida is the better fit. There's a little less pressure. You'd have a little bit more control. He's got the family tie. You can absolutely win national championships there, just like you can at LSU. And so I could see he already wears a visor. Like, he's very Spurrier-esque. Like, he would fit very, very well there. And I could see him being an asset that people want so much, a sought after piece of material that he could say no to LSU. And again, I don't think Texas is open this year, but I do think this dovetails into the conversation around how to evaluate Texas this year. Again, they are one non-conference schedule change away from being a 2-loss team and in the playoff right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I do think Sark it's clear that Sark has an eye to look around just to see what's available. It's clear that this season has to be considered a disappointment after back-to-back semifinals, Arch Manning, and being the preseason number 1 team. If this is Ohio State, we'd be talking about how, this is a disappointing year. It's a failure of a season. If they lose to A&M, that'll be a really bad, because right now the one thing Sark has going for him is he's beat all his rivals, right? He beats Oklahoma, he beats A&M last year, he's beaten a bunch of teams. I think though next year, if they have another down year, the pressure on him is very serious. Or if he's good, he could absolutely be looking around. I'm just saying there's a chance that that Kiffin stays for one more year and decides next year is my year to go. So I
don't disagree with you, but I will say, guy, man, I've look, and I'm not being dramatic here when I say that this has been a nonstop thing. Like, I haven't put down the phone and talking with so many people in Gainesville and in state Louisiana and in Mississippi. This has just ruffled so many feathers, and they can't. And just bear with me for like 1 minute here. Like Lane Kiffin said that this wasn't a distraction on Saturday following the win. Okay. It is all through the Manning facility right now. Like, this is
didn't they lose to Mississippi State when the Auburn thing happened?
Yeah. Wasn't it the infamous, the P?
No,
penalty? No, that was before. No, I'm sorry.
No, that was like 2018-19 when he was toying with going to Auburn. Which
I think it was. I think they did lose. I'm sorry, my brain's mush right now. I think that
2022 they lost in Oxford.
Yeah, listen, where we are at right now is he has got to make a decision and put it into this, because the whole conversation over the next 4 weeks will be about where he's going. Yeah. In all respect to Ole Miss here in this situation, it should be on their football team and not about where their head coach 100%. Is going, because this does them no good, man. That's why they want a decision. And I think Lane Kiffin, in all due respect, he owes Ole Miss, I think, a decision on what he wants to do. And look, if he comes to Keith Carter, maybe you agree with me and you don't hear. But if he goes to Keith and says, look, I am going to take another job. We can keep this quiet between us if you want. I don't care. This will be my last season. I'd love to coach out the playoffs if I could. I don't know how that really works. And I think that's the problem with all of this, is that Lane Kiffin has kind of pigeonholed himself where he wants to take another job, but the fact that he would not be on the sideline for a home playoff game in Oxford against Ole Miss,
that's terrible.
So,
but again, some of that is not Ole Miss or Kiffin's fault.
No, it's the calendar's fault.
It's that the calendar has never been fixed.
It's horrible.
If all the roster evaluation and coaching search stuff took place in January and February, meaning recruiting and all this other stuff, then like portal, etc., then it wouldn't be. But you got signing period in December. Like you got to get players signed if you're the new coach or at Ole Miss or the new coach somewhere else.
Here's the interesting thing too, and I know we're wrapping this part up. Tulane could have a coach that is literally on the sideline for the college football playoff, and then he is off to either Auburn or Oxford right after the season ends. And they'd be okay with it.
Dude, how crazy would it be if Tulane is at Ole Miss in a playoff game and Summerall's on the other sideline?
It would be the same damn thing as Kiffin on the other sideline in Florida this past weekend. I'm just telling you,
dude.
Like, there's a reason. You think Florida players just went out there and played out of their minds for the hell of it? No, they thought they were going out there and trying to impress their potential new coach.
They were putting out tape.
Exactly. Oh, no.
What about Beamer, man? What about Beamer?
The Beamer.
What's going on there? Like, the
shtick, Brian Kelly is what he did.
The shtick with Shane Beamer, and I was told this at the beginning of last season, not this season.
Yeah.
At the beginning of last season, I was told he needs to have a good year because the shtick is wearing thin. And I enjoy, as a media person who's interviewed him a bunch, I enjoy Shane Beamer's personality. I think it does really well. I could see having to work with him every second of the day or try to build an organization with him every day, that could wear out a little bit. Now Virginia Tech's off the table because, frankly, they got a better coach in James Franklin. And a 1-7 season, this is a preseason playoff conversation type of team. This is as disappointing a year as you can have. It's not all his fault, but the fact that they didn't build the offensive line or develop the quarterback or whatever, he's the head coach, man. So is there any chance that he decides to get out before? Because next year is now a critical season for Shane Beamer in South Carolina.
And by the way, just to add a little bit to that last conversation, Lane Kiffin, since we are live right now, he just retweeted the Grove Collective to donate to the funds. Like, you can't make this shit up, man.
Okay.
Like, this is so good. Look, I think Beamer came out on Tuesday, and pretty much pulled a Brian Kelly. If you remember Brian Kelly last year, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said we'll be in the playoffs in 2025. We saw how that went. Shane came out and said college football playoff, we'll be here on Tuesday night watching the rankings.
His halftime interview was wacky.
Yeah.
That was a choice. That was a choice.
The other interesting thing when he was going to the locker room where he's
taunting an entire fan base like he won the game.
I mean, I know that he was going into the South Carolina section and he was getting them hyped up, but at the same time, he was like, yeah, we weren't talking about the lead. We weren't, we didn't think it was over or anything like that. We weren't celebrating in the locker room, is I think what he exactly said. And I'm like,
I hope not.
Celebrating on the way to the locker room.
Right.
I think he's got one more year to figure it out at Carolina and go hire an offensive coordinator. And then South Carolina's going to have to make a tough call. Like, I think the only scenario where something could change is if Clemson just boat races South Carolina. That's the problem right now, man. You gotta raise money for next year. You gotta sell tickets. You gotta do all this, and this. And I'm just telling you, man, there's too many openings right now. Like, I don't think South Carolina's going out and hire anybody that's going to be any better than Shane Beamer. And that's not a shot at Shane Beamer. I'm just being honest. Shane Beamer's a great guy, but at the end of the day, here's what's about to happen. Opposing schools are about to make a run on their entire roster. That players that are good enough, like a run.
Yeah. And they got a lot of good young players.
And Lenoris is going to be offered $3.5, $4, $5, $6 million to transfer.
They got defensive linemen that are worth a lot of money.
Could be offered $6 million to go play next. What I'm saying is, like, this is what I'm getting back to when it comes to raising money, for NIL and being excited about the next year and everything. Like, I'm just trying to prepare folks. Like, don't take it personal, but your roster is about to be rated.
No, I hear you. All right. Any of the games coming up this weekend? ML Rose, everybody. Make sure you check out any of their 7 great locations. And, of course, this beautiful and amazing and wonderful new podcast series, the documentary Nashville with an M. It, of course, details the crazy story of how Nashville craft beer was, how the scene was built by a bunch of really improbable, crazy characters, a Wall Street financier and a leprosy camp in India. You had a monkey scientist from Vermont. You got all kinds of crazy folks that came together and built this really cool thing out of thin air, despite the fact that the state of Tennessee, even though it claims to be very, very, very pro-small business, was extremely anti-small business at the time. Those laws have all been changed. So, and you know who did it? A bunch of these craft beer folks. So really cool story. I had a great time working on it. It's a story about old Nashville as well, so I think you'll love it. So make sure you check out Nashville with an M. All right, Tennessee at Florida. When's the last time Tennessee won at Florida?
20 years ago? 21 years ago?
I was in college. Do they break that streak this weekend?
Man, like, yeah, they should. Like, Florida's coming off 2 tough losses. Hell, I can say that about their whole season. But Florida always plays like a national championship contender when they play Tennessee. So I could see the same thing happening this weekend. And I do think Tennessee, I'm not saying one player has been a problem, but I really go back to like the James Banks situation at Tennessee. I think there's a lot of people. I'm sorry. Oh man, damn! I didn't even realize because the game, South Carolina game. I Tennessee wins on Saturday, somehow getting rid of the demons, and
Nice.
and then Vanderbilt comes to town and ruins their entire offseason, and Vanderbilt's going to the playoff.
So that's what I was going to ask next. Is you got three teams that are, I'm going to call them playoff contenders, which is Oklahoma in, Vandy on teetering on the brink of being in, and Texas out. All of them have single-digit point spreads. Vandy at home against Kentucky is 9.5-point favorite. Texas at home against Arkansas, 9.5-point favorite. Oklahoma at Missouri. Those two teams, by the way, have played like 95 times, 94 times, something like that.
Missouri ran all over state last weekend.
Funny thing about playing Oklahoma, they don't let you do that.
Yeah, I get
so
that.
the one thing Missouri does very, very well right now without their quarterback is the one thing Oklahoma can take away, the best rushing defense, I think, in the conference. So any reason for concern around those three quote unquote contenders maybe losing?
I don't understand. I don't think it's a.
Sounds like
Bo Pribula might play this weekend.
If he does, then all bets are off on that.
That's what I'm getting at here. So I'm having a really hard time because they have a rushing attack that Alabama doesn't have at the moment. I'm not going to say it's a trap because I think Missouri is a different team, obviously, with Bo Pribula. So I think this is a close game. I think Oklahoma wins the game, but I think it's a close game, and maybe we get something exciting because this slate sucks this week.
Yeah, well, it's Sunbelt. It's SoCon Sunday or whatever, SoCon Saturday.
I mean, I hope Eddie get jacked up for Samford and Texas A&M on Saturday afternoon.
Shout out to Eddie rooting for Vanderbilt to schedule Virginia Tech next year for the third straight year, which of course would be a rematch with their head coach James Franklin as well. If Pribula plays, then I think you've got a very different game. Otherwise, Oklahoma wins easy. I think Arkansas could give Texas a little bit of a game. Kentucky's resurgent here. Well, that's a great rivalry game, but it's because it's in Austin. I think they win, and I'd keep an eye on Kentucky. On paper, Vanderbilt should win easily, but that Kentucky team overplays itself sometimes, and Vanderbilt sometimes plays with its food. So we'll see.
I just feel like Vanderbilt senior day. I think they'll have a good show.
I think they're focused.
Everything on the line, like they're focused. Like Diego only spent 2 days in Miami, boys. He's focused. I know he's at UFC, the UFC event in New York with Tim Corbin, which was awkward as shit, by the way. Like that was the weirdest photo to come out of the weekend. It was like Tim Corbin, the offensive lineman, and Diego Pavia at the UFC event. I was like, man, they had a good time. So
Corbin and Pavia could not be polar opposites in terms of personality, by the way, either.
Right.
Somebody asked about Eddie, I think asked about Clark Lee, hearing some rumors about extensions. I would expect an extension very soon.
Clark had himself a nice dinner the other night with the guy that's going to be handing out contracts at Vanderbilt. I think Clark's good.
Yeah, I think Clark's fine. And I don't think he's going anywhere because he's one of those guys who's like, I actually do love my alma mater and I believe in what we're doing here. So now
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh God.
Auburn, Ole Miss. Because I think Eli, even though he wants to talk about how he's not leaving and he hates all the coaching rumors and all that stuff, I think he would be the second go at Florida and LSU besides Lincoln Riley. Where does John Summerall end up? Auburn or Ole Miss? And I'm asking you this. I know how many weeks we have left in the season and what's going on. But.
I'm very torn on the Kiffin thing because the more this goes on, the more I think it means he's staying, but it also, the more it goes on, it means he's not signing the extension. So I wonder if they're just trying to work the details out on that. I think Summerall to Auburn makes a lot of sense.
I do too.
I think it's the right fit for both. And I think, strangely enough, it's one of the few times where kind of the shiny toy that feels like you're just going after the hot item also might be the most rational adult thing to do. And there's very rarely is that the same thing. And I think John Summerall is that for Auburn. So you need to hire a professional adult at Auburn is what you need to hire.
And Pete Golding be in contention for the head coach. Pete Golding's got a great contract at Ole Miss. Did you see that, by the way? Like, even if the coach leaves, he gets to stay no matter what.
You want to talk about I was just thinking, like, Auburn needs to hire a real professional adult, not a minister who water skis naked. And then you mentioned Pete Golding. And I'm like, Pete Golding might also be caught water skiing naked.
Holy hell, man. That went off the rails quick. No, I love it.
Baby Billy, man.
Billy.
Stop hiring evangelical preachers as your head football coaches at Auburn. What are you doing?
Absolutely nothing after I pay my scientists. I could go on for days.
All right. We got to go.
Fun weekend ahead.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for Thanksgiving. Make sure you check out Nashville. Check out all Trey's work, Outkick.com, and the Outkick podcast. Of course, all the other great shows across the 440 Sports and Network. We do appreciate it. At Braden Gall on the Twitter machine. You can follow and complain to me. There's already a few people in my mentions telling me how bad my SEC bias takes are. Oh, SEC bias.
Isn't this an SEC show?
This one is perhaps an SEC show, yes. But
like
you and I both have covered it nationally for a long time. So, all right.
Yeah,
thanks for listening.
Freaking Columbus, Ohio in 2 weeks. Kiss my grits.
Thanks for hanging out. For Trey and Braden, we'll talk to you next time.